Brian, I remember like it was yesterday when I got the phone call inviting me to interview with Justice Scalia. And that in and of itself was a pretty intimidating experience because
Mhm.
Justice Scalia, of course, was one of the legendary figures in the law. I had only been to the Supreme Court, I think, once by that point. And of course, I'd never met Justice Scalia. And so it was a pretty daunting experience. I remember the knot that developed in my stomach as I was walking up the steps of the Supreme Court for that interview. And
Yeah.
Justice Scalia, of course, was incredibly charming as well as intimidating. And I remember the interview pretty well, and it seemed to go okay. But I remember coming out of that interview thinking this is probably the one and only time I'm ever going to meet Justice Scalia, and that was a cool experience. But if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And so when I
Mhm.
got the call from Justice Scalia offering me the job, I think I could scarcely hide my surprise as well as my excitement. It
Mhm.
was an extraordinary experience, and it's kind of hard for me, and I suspect for other Scalia clerks, to disaggregate the extraordinariness of just clerking at the Supreme Court from the particular extraordinariness of clerking for Justice Scalia, because he was such a towering figure. And the first few weeks were definitely scary because here I was, a 20 something year old recent law school graduate, in chambers with one of the great legal minds of our time. And you certainly have moments of feeling, boy, I'm just totally not worthy for this. But
Yeah.
what was funny was that over the course of a year, I think you would progressively stop thinking about that so much and realize that, like any other clerkship, what the judge or justice wants you to do is to um, really sort of test their own thinking so that they can make good and wise decisions. And that was certainly how Justice Scalia felt about his law clerks. He did not want his law clerks to be yes men or yes women. He wanted them to disagree with him. And we had some really just incredible discussions about the law. He would get excited about the smallest cases. And so if you had a case about something like whether you could, you know, trademark the design of a baseball stadium, he would be all over it. Those were the sorts of cases he really loved.
Mm.
And he was such a great legal technician as well as such an incredible writer. So it was a brilliant learning experience. And to be behind the scenes at the Supreme Court for a year was just an incredible privilege. I mean, I would remember we would work pretty late sometimes, and I'd remember, walking through the Great Hall of the Supreme Court on the way out of the building and just thinking, what an honor it is, particularly for me as the son of immigrants, to have that chance to be behind the scenes for a year at the Supreme Court. It's an experience that even now, almost 25 years later, I still think back on with a sense of awe that I had that opportunity.